We've entered the last week of September, and I'm still asking, where is the month running to? Didn't we just say Happy New Month a few days ago? But if you don't know, there are 99 days left in this 2024. That's 3 months, 8 days, or maybe 14 weeks and 1 day, and some 2,300 plus hours. I had to do the math last night when I realized that we were entering into the last week of September. I feel like I remember our Happy New Month show now.
Honestly,
wasn't it like last week?
this month of September has been really fast.
It has,
very,
absolutely.
very fast.
I feel like the year has been
Fast, maybe,
Yes.
yeah. Once you enter that ember month, it's like, and you know, a lot of people attach a lot of negativity, even though I do not share the sentiment to the ember month. Because I always tell people it's energy. Is if you keep thinking that, oh, bad things happen,
then they will.
So girls, as is our usual custom, how was your weekend? I should start with Annie because she wore a slinky dress. So let's go.
Why would you leave me alone with this slinky
So
dress?
are you going to lie on national TV that you didn't wear a slinky silver dress I saw?
Yes.
I saw it too.
It was
To a women's event,
So
wasted.
I should have worn it to a man's event. Is that what you're saying?
An event with more men.
With more men.
Is that what she's saying?
There were some good men there.
Oh,
just
really?
unavailable.
Cameramen?
Sorry?
Photographers?
Can she please answer the question, Lolo?
Lolo, what
I
is
know
happening?
the event she went.
You're
Is
upset
it-
you didn't go.
It's no.
Okay.
So you're upset that I went, look, what?
Looking like a snack. Who was going to eat the snack?
Ooh.
What if I have someone that watches me from afar and eats, what?
And is eating the snack.
What are you saying, Daddy? What are you saying?
Lolo, you're good.
Please don't mind them. I'm single. Please, I just leave Lolo.
So how was the weekend?
It was good. It was a working social weekend. Yes. So I socialized on Saturday. I worked on Sunday, which was a good balance for me. Yeah.
And your cheekbones are chicken. I like it.
Cheeky.
Oh,
So,
thank
T,
you.
what did you do?
Okay,
Ty?
Saturday I was here for the Edo elections,
Oh,
gubernatorial
yeah.
elections.
Yes.
We covered it, opened the studio at 7. I eventually got in late and then stayed till late. But it was a good one. I always like seeing the teams that we have come together, pulled together. We pulled in Onye from sports, we pulled in the business people, producers, news anchors, and all that. It was really, really nice. On Sunday, didn't leave my house again. I'm making
It's
it
very
like,
important.
I need to
You're
love
intentional.
you very, very much to step out of my house on Sundays. And then I was on the phone with my sister. She taught me how to make her native coconut rice. Oh my God!
Did you make it?
I made it. My house was smelling like an Italian. I can't eat like a patisserie. I don't know what to say. The smell of garlic and ginger, atarudo,
herbs.
small. You know, I did in Kanoeron. I did meat. I did assorted.
Thank God my
I
weekend
did
was
dry
not so bad.
fish. Don't worry.
You cook for the week. When are we coming? When are we coming
We'll
to
share a
eat?
plate
Tolu,
tomorrow.
you are rich, oh. Please bring me
It was
coconut
only
rice. I can use it
I
for a
saved to be able to do this.
Honestly, but if we don't say these things, people think
That's
it's
it.
easy peasy. I can't lie to you this weekend. I had to buy like a quarter bag of rice because I know the kids are gone to school. And the whole bag, they will finish it. Hey, it's not easy, but we are pulling through.
Yes.
Oh, I had to tell the history of this dress. You know, this dress I made for somebody's burial on Friday, but I mistakenly entered it into my diary as Saturday.
So she missed the event.
So I missed the event.
So you still shall want to wear it.
Yeah.
So she's trying to
So this
figure
is
out,
in
tell them your
honor
conundrum.
of the man that died. I celebrate you.
Yes.
And I haven't been able to apologize. So on Saturday, I still went for another event. The CP of Lagos State, the current CP, his daughter got married, and I had to follow Bestie to the place. Iyano Ikpaja.
Ew.
Oh, was it driving? Then on Sunday was spent with Funke Akindele all day till 2 a.m.
Has she shown you the
this morning.
pictures?
I saw one of them.
I cannot
They
wait
don't
for
know
those
what's
pictures to
coming.
come.
I will drag her to Jasiri.
Fire.
We must drag Funke to
We will
Jasiri.
drag her to
We
this
want
table.
you here, ma'am.
Honestly, when you see a woman that is powerful, I'm so thankful to God for these times that women are collecting their flowers.
Yes.
Women are alive and they are being celebrated. That is the way to do it. No. Gone are those days that it will be, you know, vicarious. You may just...
You have to live off of your man or through him.
Women,
Yeah.
empower yourself. Do not stay under someone. Create your individuality, live it, and at the same time, enjoy your partner. That's the way to do it.
Absolutely.
Anyway, with that rubbish that you said,
What rubbish did I say?
the year that you counted. Me, I refuse. Oh, I refuse totally. I refuse to let the fact that the year is just a few more days. When she said 99 days, it was like, Jesus.
When I calculated it yesterday, I said, wait, where is this month? What happened here? I don't understand.
Yeah, I'm just going to continue hustling and grinding as if the year just began.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to know.
Something happened to me this morning, and I need to know if I'm just what did you say?
Overreacting?
Not overreacting, if I'm too sensitive.
Okay.
So I was about to get up, but I had not gotten up when somebody with a megaphone started preaching. And I was just destabilized. No. You know, those last 15, 20 minutes where you think, let me just quickly take another, sleep, it was gone. And I was thinking to myself, what should I do? The first thought in my head, I will not lie, is I'm calling LESEPA. Because I've called LESEPA before. And if you do not know, LESEPA is the Lagos State Environmental Protection Agency, and they actually deal with noise pollution as well. I've called LESEPA before. I've called LESEPA on religious institutions in my neighborhood where I formerly live. Because how will you do vigil at night and your microphone and your speakers are turned outside? I'm not choosing to come to the vigil.
Exactly.
I don't need to
so why do I have
happening.
To participate?
The people who chose to come are there. I got
a lot of people that will say,
and then LESEPA called me back and said, has the situation been amended? That's when I said, okay, this is the agency.
Okay, we can
that's working.
So
this morning when this guy did it, and then somebody else had done it, I'm like, so they're starting to sneak back up again. Yeah. It's like, I need to call LESEPA.
Exactly.
Am I overreacting?
I do not think so. I know a lot of Christians can become so religious.
Christian and Muslim, both of it.
Both of them, yes, they can be so religious. But the thing is that you know that your rights exist as long as it does not encroach on the rights of another.
Yes.
So people need to know that that is the law.
Yeah.
I'm not saying do not enjoy your religious practices. I go to church. Stay within your institutions and have. But if you're in an environment that you're sharing residential area, that's why I still think that there are some things that they should not allow. It's just like allowing a filling station in a residential area. Smack in the middle of two houses.
Exactly.
Those things are not
There's
done.
Some things that
Let's just go somewhere, designated areas, and have church, have mosque, have shrine.
They have, but they now take megaphone. Come and walk down the street and somehow stand at the end of my fence.
Then they want to be arrested. That's what it is.
They are evangelizing.
I don't know.
At 5 a.m. in the morning.
Exactly.
Not all of Lagos is awake.
One-on-one. That's evangelism.
You can evangelize to multiple people at a time.
At a time.
You need to make sure that they're listening to you, though.
You know,
they say you're Antichrist.
So it happened when I had Corday, my mom was around and I was complaining because I couldn't sleep and new baby and everything. And my mom was like, no, I'm a reverend doctor and everything. If you want to. I said, Mommy, no. Even on Sunday mornings, we're standing in the kitchen because I'm not going to church because I have a new baby and I cannot concentrate because of the sound. I think it has to stop. I really do appreciate the work that LESEPA has been doing. If you have some complaints to make in Lagos, you might want to look them up. And I think people need to realize that, yes, we're all for freedom of religion as it may be, but as Lolo said, your freedom to that religion stops where it becomes an encroachment on somebody else's. Absolutely. You cannot be doing overnight and everybody who did not attend is also awake with you and doing night vigil. You cannot carry a megaphone and go to the front of people's compounds and start screaming and start saying you're evangelizing. Because there's also a part of the Bible that talks about, as Christians, not doing things that will turn people away.
Obnoxious.
No, if it's about people turning people away,
I don't know if anything like
I think at the moment, Christians are doing the most at that. So turning people away from their faith. Oh, they are doing the most.
That's a big conversation.
Let's have it.
Big conversation.
Today is Monday. Calm yourself down. You're so pretty.
So she should not rant today, Abby.
She would rant eventually. But today we are actually going to be looking at something very important. We'll be taking a look at Nigeria's quality of education and its standards. Do stay with us because this is a question that everybody would need to answer. We'll be right back.
Thank you for staying with us. Remember, you can join the conversation via our social media platforms. We are News Central TV. Now, for the past several weeks, we've been having conversations about the state of Nigeria's education system. According to statistics, Nigeria has one of Africa's largest education systems, with over 66 million children enrolled in schools as of 2022. But earlier this year, UNICEF said Nigeria had the world's largest population of out-of-school children at 18.3 million children between the ages of 5 and 14. our country faces remarkable challenges, including socio-economic factors and geographic disparities. This alarming statistic reflects systemic issues in Nigeria, such as poverty, conflict, and even cultural barriers to education. Now, joining us today, we're going to unravel this discussion around Nigeria's education system. And we have with us Dr. Joy Issa. She's the education consultant and the president of the Issa School of Education. Thank you, Dr. Issa, for joining us on Jasiri once again. Welcome.
Very welcome, ma'am.
Thank you for having me.
All right,
nice to be here.
Dr. Issa, let's start the conversation because in having you the first few times, we've talked about the quality of education in the country, which has increasingly come under scrutiny. Now, recent assessments indicate a disconcerting trend in learning outcomes. A recent World Bank report highlights that about 70% of children between the ages of 10 and above are classified as learning poor, meaning they cannot read or comprehend simple text. The National Assessment of Learning Outcomes suggests that only 35% of primary school students meet minimum proficiency levels in literacy and numeracy, revealing a significant deficit in foundational learning. There's a lot of focus in Nigeria and a lot of money we see seemingly going towards tertiary education, but there are questions about the foundational years. So let's look at that in particular. What are the current challenges Nigeria faces in ensuring high quality education, especially in public schools at these foundational, very important years?
Again, thank you for having me. The biggest problem I see is the fact that we don't have a national curriculum for early years. And by early years, we mean age 0 to 5. We don't have a published curriculum for early years. So it's, it's open season. Teachers, school leaders, educators go with the flow. A couple private schools have adopted curricula from diaspora, let's say. So the early years curriculum, Montessori curriculum, but where is the Nigerian curriculum for nursery school, for reception? We don't have one published, unfortunately. So that opportunity to build your foundational literacy and numeracy skills is missing. And when these young children go into primary school, they're expected to be able to have a certain measure of literacy and numeracy skills, computational reasoning, basic sounds, phonics, things like that. In our public schools, these have to be taught from primary 1, which is between ages 5 and 6. In the public school system, these children have learned all these skills. And so they're already advantaged. So that's a fundamental issue. We need to align. We need something published by the government saying this is the standard for children between the ages of 0 to 5. Some countries have curricula for ages 3 to 5, saying, okay, 1 year in nursery, 3 to 4, 1 year in reception, which is pre-primary, 4 to 5, and then you go on. But therein lies a big problem. We don't have a curriculum.
This thing you said, we had the conversation, I think we touched on it a little bit when you were here last, in this, everybody calls something Montessori. Montessori is not about just chairs and tables that are the size of the kids. There's a whole conversation around the curriculum. But isn't that a problem in the fact that we're even looking at an early years curriculum, 0 to 5? We've had the conversation. A lot of times kids abroad are not doing anything 0 to 5.
They just play with blocks.
They play with blocks and they color and they learn ABC and they sing coloring and they learn their just very basic. Isn't it of itself a problem that we're looking at curriculum for 0 to 5 years old?
But I want Dr. Issa to answer that question because it's very fundamental. Because a lot of people in Nigeria, especially in the education sector, actually just think Montessori is about play. Is that what it is?
Absolutely not. The Montessori method was developed to support children with children who are atypical. That means children who are not learning as the regular and typically developing children. If you read through the history, Maria Montessori noticed that some children were thriving in traditional classrooms and some were not. So how do we support these children to be able to access these ABCs, as you say, the alphabets, their numbers, basic addition? And she developed the strategy to say, instead of children learning in abstraction, just counting numbers or just saying this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, can we give the children manipulatives to use so the learning is more concrete? So they're not playing. The fact that we're building a tower. Let me give a simple example. So say you want to do a survey in class and you want to say children's favorite food. Who likes eba? Who likes jollof rice? Who likes plantain? Instead of just drawing on a piece of paper, you build the bar chart against the wall and put the word, you can put a bowl of eba, a picture of eba, a picture of rice, and children just go and stack that. So you use the blocks and build, so the bar graph becomes visual, becomes concrete. And then when the children have to read it in a textbook to say, okay, look at this, you can imagine at a foundational level, that's numeracy, that's data handling, but they're just building towers on who likes eba and who likes jollof rice.
Wow.
By the time you now take them to statistics and statistical analysis, they have a solid, foundation. Their conceptual understanding is deep because they supposedly played.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for that skillful answer. Very interesting. I actually like that. But in August of this year, after 12 years of curriculum review, the federal government said there is no going back in delivering to Nigerians a reviewed curriculum for its basic and senior secondary schools, which is aimed at addressing the current learning crisis in the country and the encouragement of the use of more technology. Minister of Education, Professor Tahir Mamman, said reports have been shown that out of our 4 children in Nigeria, at least one of them suffers poor numeracy level, poor learning level, and also poor critical thinking level. Before we talk about reviewing the curriculum, I think it's very important to highlight the impact of the country from a poor educational system. Because look at all these things that they said they are deficient in. Is the root cause of it not poor education system? They cannot give back what they were not taught. So how do you want to address this assertion made by the Minister of Education?
And how do we as a society then get impacted and affected as these individuals continue to grow, but yet the foundation is faulty?
You've captured it so beautifully. We cannot give what we don't have. So if in our NCEs, in our Bachelor of Education programs, we are not, our curriculum content does not include critical thinking, does not include a transition. I mean, the problem is enormous, honestly. Yeah. I've run so many webinars, so many training sessions, and you find teachers don't understand why they shouldn't really be giving children notes to copy. They should be promoting note-taking, promoting critical thinking. So they still want to do all that synthesis of information, then write it on the board, blackboard or whiteboard or digital board, it's still a board, and then children copying their notes. Where is the opportunity for the children to think? Where is the opportunity for them to process information from different points and then synthesize it in their minds and then answer a question? That is what ends up causing part of the problems of exam malpractices in WAEC and in some of the other big exams.
Yeah.
You haven't given me enough time to think and practice this. Then all of a sudden, I should answer these big, solid, juicy questions in exam. I don't know how to do this. So we need to circle back to initial teacher training. What is the content of our teacher training? It's all well and good to update the curriculum, include history, which we're really looking forward to seeing that updated curriculum and seeing whether history is now all the way to lower basic and not just in secondary school. Anyway, but we need to go all the way back. What are the teachers still being taught? You will be surprised that the curriculum for NCE has not been upgraded.
How many years?
So this was actually a question that was coming up, Dr. Issa, but you've already taken us there. When was the last time the teacher's curriculum was upgraded?
I promise you, I don't know.
Wow.
Yes. So NCEs were established, many, many years ago. If you go all the way back, I think the first school, because we've done a lot of research on the history or the evolution let's call it, of education in Nigeria. And you have to go all the way back to I think it's 1878 or so, when the first schools were established, that led to UI, University of Ibadan, being established in 1948, to drive educational institutions. Because when Nigeria, North and South, were put together, there was now a need for North and South to come together because West was ahead. So the schools were put together, what's it called? Universal Basic Education. That whole 6334 system was finally established in 1984, yes. Okay, that is all well and good. Who is coming to teach this curriculum? Have their instructional strategies, has the teacher's curriculum been updated to match? We don't see it, we don't see the match. We still see, I mean, I'm part of faculty of a privately owned NCE, and I don't want to call names, but there's a dichotomy of practices, because we are still required to teach teachers, we're still required to teach teachers to be the center of attention. We're still required to teach teachers that it's all about them. They are the owners of the learning. And the minister is telling us, oh, use technology. We're not taught to use technology in our NCEs, in our colleges of education. So how do we give what we don't have?
Dr. Issa, I need to ask, if we're saying that the curriculum or the criteria for Nigerian teachers has not been updated in God knows when, we're still at a base criteria. Please, what is the criteria?
Yeah,
what is the basic criteria to be a teacher?
So I feel like there's another angle to this question that I want to add so that you can answer both of them at the same time. You just mentioned the UBE Act, and I think it was reinstated in 2024, but it was an offshoot of the UPE Act under Obasanjo, where children were supposed to get free education for the first 9 years, 6 years of their primary, 3 years of their junior secondary. And, it was supposed to ensure that people went to school, and then teachers were trained to teach these children in schools. But it looks like that was never implemented. Obviously because of poor infrastructure, because of the lack of teachers and all of that. So it feels like laws are passed, policies are put in place, but there isn't anything to ensure they're implemented, and there isn't any fallout, or there isn't any impact of it not being implemented. Yeah, so if you don't mind just answering both of them.
Absolutely. What is happening in the education sector is not even a microcosm. It's a picture, a snapshot of what is happening in every sector. Where we do not have regulators to enforce the laws, to enforce the decrees, what has been agreed, this is the result. We have the learning loss, we have inconsistent standards, and so on. So NCE was established in the 1990s. And a lot of conversation supposedly went on before that with the Ministry of Education, the Ashby Report of 1959 and things like that. So NCE was established. That's all well and good. Who is assuring the quality of these accredited colleges of education? As at last time I checked, last year, there were over 200 accredited colleges of education, awarding, teaching qualifications. Now, to teach in a primary school in Nigeria, you don't need a degree.
Wow.
You just go, you finish your secondary school, then you do your NCE training, which is about 3 years, and then you are qualified to teach in a primary school. That sounds good until you probe a bit deeper and see that a lot of the people who end up in NCE are those who didn't get their degree of choice because they didn't quite have the maths and English credits. In certain parts of the country, you can get away with this, where you can get admitted into your NCE program with 5 credits, and you have maybe either maths or English. And so picture that my English, was not really good, but I was given the opportunity to remediate it. Okay, go through your NCE, do maths education or something. I go on, finish that. I then go into a university, because with an NCE, you can go and do a B.Ed program. I go in to do a B.Ed, any of the Nigerian universities, and I come out and I'm a teacher and I go to XYZ International School and I say, you can employ me, I'm qualified to teach. Meanwhile, my English is atrocious.
Hey,
Doctor,
that's how we say we have to hold on to
Dr. Issa,
that.
hold on there. Hold on there.
important.
We need to take a quick time out. So when we come back, we'll continue this conversation. Then also look at what the minister announced, I think it was in July, that there would actually be a new curriculum kicking off in September for basic and secondary school curriculum. Let's see if that has taken off and your thoughts on that. Jasiri will continue after this. This is Jasiri, and today we're discussing Nigeria's quality of education and standards with our guest, Dr. Joy Issa. She's an education consultant and president of the Issa School of Education. Now, Dr. Issa, just before the break, you were talking about how easy it seems for people to get into NCE and somehow find themselves teaching pupils across Nigeria. And I don't know how people are not making the circular connection that when the criteria of the teachers are bad, there's no way we're not going to have the learning outcomes that we've been discussing, a deficiency in numeracy, in literacy, and all those many things. As we're discussing now, something popped up on my Instagram. A mother has a 3-year-old son who's not writing. He's 3. And that the school teachers have told her she needs to get a lesson teacher for a 3-year-old who's not writing. So, Dr. Issa, you can see that there's issues around us pushing our kids too quickly right now. Around the world right now, there are even conversations as the fact that there's no use for homework at home. But if you bring that conversation up to some parents in Nigeria, you must send that homework home. But I want to ask you something very quickly, because as I said before we went on the break, the Minister of Education, Professor Tahir Maman, in July at the 2024 policy meeting organized by the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, said that there would be a new curriculum kicking off for secondary schools in September. Has that curriculum kicked off, Dr. Issa? What's in it? What did we remove? What did we add? What does it look like?
As of today, the new curriculum is not published on the NERDC website. It's not there, unfortunately.
Wow.
I even checked again this morning, looking through it, because NERDC is the custodian of the e-curriculum. It is not, it's not updated yet. But having said that, though, it does take up to 2 years to establish curriculum reform. Everywhere in the world, when you introduce curricula, you have to share the documentation with the stakeholders, and then they trial it. You have a 2-year window to implement the curriculum. As we know in our nation, a lot of us are still very analog in terms of the fact that we do a lot of things paper-based. Yeah. And so we need to be fair, we do need to give the government time to implement. However, that curriculum should have been available online by now.
And if you're setting a date for implementation, nobody's rushing you. You, as the minister, came out and said it would be effective by September. Did you not know that there was a way for you to go about this?
Well,
honestly.
Well, I like how she said, well. Dr. Issa, let's move on very quickly, because I'm really curious about something that goes around.
I want to, before you go on, I want to talk about that 3-year-old and writing piece.
Yes.
You see, the problem is not necessarily with the parents, is with those of us who are supposedly the experts, the professionals, not knowing what to do. How can a 3-year-old whose, gross motor and fine motor skills still need to be developed, need to write? Meanwhile, you're not giving them the big fat, the chunky pens. You're giving them the skinny pencils. Physiologically or developmentally, that's wrong.
There yet.
That's another part of this
No,
conversation. We're not ready to have.
Yeah, because there's an emphasis on
getting them into school early.
Having a position as opposed to being qualified to be there. So, and that's something that runs through the entire system, Nigerian system. It happens with schools where you have a person that's in primary 4 already being pushed to sit for exams in primary 6 because, you can just make it. Yes. So we're very focused on looking the part as opposed to actually being the part. And that takes work, that takes dedication and commitment.
Honestly, there's so many areas that we can just highlight. I just see one question. We can totally stay on one and just be unraveling. But I wanted to ask a little bit of this Tolu's question she should have added the last time. They said, what do we really need? Because we're looking at Nigeria's basic and senior education setup. What do we need to bring it up to par? Because some stakeholders are listening to us and some educators are even listening. Absolutely. Look at you that is a senior educator. You have gone on their website where it's supposed to be. It's not even there. That means now we're even having a deluge of mushroom schools. Everybody down the street has a secondary school and a primary school. And children are supposedly being educated in these places. What do we need? What makes it up to par? I mean, our senior, Nigeria's basic and senior education school. What do we need? Because, like Tolu would say, we're in the fourth revolution.
The fourth industrial revolution.
Yes, fourth industrial revolution, where we're supposed to be in the internet
of things.
Days of things, and we're still following paper trails. I see no teachers that are still writing.
It's still quite analog. It's
what
still
do they call that now? No, they write teachers' notes, and all those things. When research has gone beyond just copying from a textbook into a notepad, what do they need to be up to par?
You know, there's one of my mentees who I encouraged to transition into teaching, and she's currently completing her PGD with the National Open University. And she came back to me and said, Dr. Issa, we can do good work in Nigeria. I said, yeah, we can. Because what they're telling us to do, we should be, if we do it well, our children should learn. But I don't think we can all do it well. And then she mentioned to me how some of them were trying to circumvent, as usual, the process of an exam because they weren't quite ready. And, you know, the invigilators caught them, etc., etc. The curriculum, I say again, in and of itself can help us, especially Nigerians in more rural communities, can provide us with the leverage we need, can give us an adequate level of literacy and numeracy skills if our teachers can deliver the curriculum as it is. Unfortunately, our teachers have low literacy and numeracy skills themselves. Wow. Remember in 2015, when the Kaduna State governor at the time, you know, got teachers to do an exam, and there was a whole uproar because it was failed. Yes. And it was going to fire all of them, and there was so much pushback. I promise you, if every state does this, we will have the same issue.
Yes.
We find it difficult to employ graduates to become teachers because we can give you the skills. We can say, this is how to teach, this is how not to teach. But where your basic literacy, numeracy, critical thinking skills are deficient, how do we employ you to work in our schools? It's a problem. So the problem starts with the teachers. We say children are recalcitrant. Where are their parents? We say children don't know what to do in school. Where are their teachers? So I have to throw myself under the bus as well. We are the problem. That is why a lot of us keep going abroad to get better quality education, to know what to do, to come back. But right now, the more people go abroad, the more they stay abroad. They don't come back.
Yeah. Dr. Issa, I'd like to ask a question, and it's a bit controversial, but we have to ask it anyway. The Nigerian school system, in fact, school systems all over the world, you go into school knowing that you're supposed to end up in college, you're supposed to end up in the tertiary institution. And here in Nigeria, millions of people sit for the UTME exams. And funnily enough, every single year, not more than 20% of the candidates who sit for the exams actually get admission into these institutions. Not because they might not have passed, but because there's just not enough space. There isn't enough infrastructural provision for the amount of students that have been trained for 9 years of their lives to write these exams. First of all, that's already an anomaly. How do we address that? But more importantly, what is the alternative for people who have been trained all their lives to write college exams, not get into college because there isn't any space for them? What do they now do with themselves? They just wait a few years, write the exams the next year, try and hope they make it in the next year, and then you have a bunch of people who are frustrated, they're getting older, they become useless to themselves and the society. Why is all our focus on the tertiary institutions when we know that there's just not enough?
And not everybody will make it to tertiary institutions.
And funnily enough, I'm just going to add, when people come out of these institutions, it's not a guarantee that they're going to be useful to the
society.
Yeah.
You know, we used to have these technical and vocational centers.
Yes.
Our polytechnics used to be thriving. And they were thriving because everyone understood at the time that you didn't have to go to university for the white-collar jobs. You went to polytechnics and vocational centers to gain the skills you needed to become an entrepreneur, to become an independent citizen. Right now, we have so undervalued and blacklisted the polytechnics and these vocational centers that, in fact, your family will wonder what is wrong with you or what is wrong with your parents for allowing you go to a polytechnic or go to a technical vocational center instead of going to university. It has now become a thing of prestige. So you have to go to university. Meanwhile, you would probably be better off going to an accredited vocational center, become a skilled, carpenter, plumber. I mean, a lot of us in building our properties, in doing work, keep saying, please, I want plumbers from Togo and from Lome and from this because they've been to school.
They're more better.
Yes.
They are skilled. So why can't we keep promoting these things? And it's a what do you call it now? A societal stigma. Yes. Unfortunately, the more we talk about it, perhaps we can change the narrative to say, okay, I'm a proud plumber and you have to pay me a premium because I provide premium services. That's a whole cultural change that, will take a while to establish, but we need more public-private partnership.
So, Dr. Issa, let me interrupt you. I apologize, because that naturally leads to a conversation about investment. And when you look at it, education is not just a teacher conversation, it's a money conversation as well. And despite the fact that UNESCO recommends a 26% benchmark for educational budgets in underdeveloped countries like Nigeria, we're seeing that for the past 10 years or so, Nigerian governments have allocated just an average 5 to 8% for their budgets to education. That's not going to get us anywhere. It hasn't gotten us anywhere. The evidence is in front of us. But beyond that, it really makes you beg the question, are we a country that really is serious about education and about how budget allocations or lack of those actually impact the education system? And I'll also ask this, do we need to go cap in hand again to the private sector? Yes, I understand the point of PPPs, private-public partnerships, but it feels that oftentimes Nigeria's government is abdicating its responsibility to pull the private sector in to do what it should be doing.
The government the government alone cannot educate our populace.
Impossible.
About 50% of Nigerians are under age 18. The government cannot meet that need. And so we do need to go cap in hand. We need the public-private partnerships. And we don't need window dressing partnerships. We need authentic partnerships. For example, let's just call MTN. So MTN, you have a foundation and all of that, great. But you need technical experts on the field. You need people that can, maybe computer analysts, data analysts, and things like that. MTN, can you partner with an existing university to own that department and say, okay, you provide subsidies, sponsorships for everyone in that department, for people to be able to get certified, for people to be able to take that course, and then they have to intern with you, and maybe the most successful can work with you, can absorb as many as you can, but the others are empowered to make a difference in any sector. So we need more authentic PPPs where it is not window dressing. It's not, to tick the, the tax break box and say, yes, we come to Jasiri and we invite you to come and take pictures and celebrate us for what we've done. But it's long-term investment. That long-term investment is something we don't see a lot of in our country, unfortunately. And if I go back quickly to that budget question, you know that even countries abroad, unfortunately, they don't. So countries abroad, more developed nations, don't spend so much on education. If you check the UK, I know the UK, for example, they spend about 4 to 5% of their budget on education. But when you see the amount of money that is, you can understand why. We have a long way to go and we need to catch up. Which is why UNICEF is saying, guys, go up to the 20s so that you can invest and catch up. we need to partner with the private sector because government cannot do it alone. That's just the simple truth.
Dr. Isa,
we have a break, but we have one final question we have to take you on that domesticates this conversation in the here and now. Dr. Isa, please just hold on for us. We'll be right back after the break.
welcome back. If you're just joining us, you're still tuned to Jasiri, and we have been having a robust conversation with Dr. Joy Isa on the state of our education and all the challenges that surround it. We just want to ask you this question because it's very important. At least let's look at what the world overview is. When we started this conversation, Annie quoted, I want to believe so, that UNICEF, which says that our out-of-school children now numbers a whopping 18.3 million. And one of the conversations we had last week focused on the report from Abakaliki in Ebonyi State, where there has been low turnout of students for the new term. The report mentioned that parents blamed the harsh economy, the rise in the cost of living, and more. What's typical happens to education goals in times like this when parents have to prioritize feeding, housing, to
one child
over another. It depends on the number of children that are in the family. What happens to our children? Would these statistics not be climbing higher?
Absolutely. The stats will increase, and there will be, it's called a learning loss. So as a nation, we will experience further learning loss to that which we experienced during COVID. Wow. Worldwide, there was a learning loss, and all of us as educators were encouraged to use data to check where our students are at so that we see the gap. So you check where maybe from 2000 to 2002, how the children have performed, and then you compare that with previous years, compare that with your curriculum outcomes. So there's a major learning loss, and everybody's trying to catch up. This will compound the issue because take, for example, Joy, who is the first, now has to be at home for maybe a term or two until her parents can, reset and reorganize their finances, and the other two are going to school. But the other two maybe go to school hungry a couple times, so the learning is not as impactful because nobody learns when they're hungry, right?
Absolutely.
So we will have learning loss, across board at multiple levels, and our challenges will be further compounded. I think it is important, honestly, sometimes instead of giving out these palliatives that we give out, can we feed the children in school? Because if you establish a feeding program, then of course Joy's parents will send her to school because they know she will at least eat in school. She will have one solid meal.
They've done that.
So if all the schools have feeding programs to help at this time, then we'll have more children in school as opposed to reduced numbers.
Dr. Isa, it's so nice you mentioned the school feeding program because I know that they did it in the last administration. The Buhari administration, they said they fed a lot of children. There were evidences of some schools receiving feeding. And I don't think
it hasn't continued.
It hasn't continued.
Yeah. It hasn't continued.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, and that's quite sad because even in developed countries, children are fed in schools to keep them in schools.
Yes.
It's a fundamental, it's a basic need. So where we are advocating for basic education from primary to junior secondary, feeding should be an integral part of the process. It's as important as infrastructural development, allocating technology. Let's give the children one meal every day, they will come to school.
Dr. Joy Isa, it's always a pleasure having you on the show. We commend your passion and dedication towards education in Nigeria, and you have our support in everything and making sure that we keep these conversations on the front burner. As always, thank you so much, Dr. Isa.
Thank you.
For joining
us. Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure.
All right. And we're supposed to have hot topics, but this is a hot enough topic as it is, because I wanted to make sure we asked that last question, because this is a time where parents are choosing. And that's what we arrived at last week. They're having to choose between which child possibly they send to school, who stays home, how long they stay home. Do they send their children hungry? Hungry children are distracted. Children are not like adults. You can't force fasting on them. They're not going to pay attention. And then let's also consider what happens to kids who are left at home. It's not like somebody's necessarily going to be at home to stay with them.
Of course not.
Parents are going to have to go out and also hustle as well. For girls, this might mean that we might see an increase in teenage pregnancies.
Of course.
For boys, it might mean the potential for getting involved
in
petty crime. So just the fact that people are having to choose which child goes to school or not taking any child to school, the knockdown effects are
we would even see more child labor. Because a lot of them will be on the streets because if he's going to be out of the house, they're just going to put plantain on his head or groundnuts and say, go and sell for you to be able to, you know, keep him at home. One of the things that I really, really want to beg the government, honestly, sometimes I'm wondering that where are our priorities? Our teachers need better training. We can't just look at people that couldn't make it to university and just managed.
Throw them in and
Imagine when somebody that managed to get an education at NCE level trains your children.
What we're doing is we're setting. No, but what means we're basically setting our children up for failure. They're being trained by people who are not fully trained. And then why won't we have the learning outcomes that we have?
And then why
won't the World Bank come and tell us that our children are learning deficient?
And then you find that people have gone to school, but they don't have an understanding of applied knowledge, so they cannot apply what they learned.
What do they do? Just like you heard, they'll just write things on the board.
Yeah.
The children copy it in their notebooks. Even some of these teachers do not even know. They just read out of a textbook to them.
Yes,
so how can
there's
such children be creative thinkers?
It's a processing impediment. That's what it is. So people are not learning how to process information from one point to the logical conclusion. That's the only way you can.
There will always be exam malpractice because it is cram and paste. Cram.
There's
and
one
not
thing.
learning.
And the one thing that I think also annoys me, and I'll say this, I'm the product of a public education outside of the country and free school feeding. It helped to keep us in school. And so I see it. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. Other people have done it. Why has school feeding in Nigeria stopped? I know there's controversy around how much was being spent and what the kids were actually getting. But what I'm also annoyed about right now is Professor Tahir Maman has said that September a new curriculum is going to start. As of today that Dr. Issa checked the website, it's not enough for them to make these glowing announcements about policy changes and updates when the real work is not done.
Exactly. And today is the 23rd.
And it seems that there's no one
school has
to
started.
hold
There's
people
you can't
accountable.
do a new curriculum in the middle of the
school year. Yeah, the school has started already. The year has started.
Anyway, very interesting. But on that note, it's time for us to go. I want to say thank you again to Dr. Joy Issa, for joining us, for taking us to a conversation on Nigeria's quality of education and standards. We're back here in your faces, 10 a.m. again tomorrow, to deliver more conversations that are bold and fearless. And we always enjoy every minute that we spend doing it. So from all the ladies on the table, we'll say see you tomorrow.